Thank you for coming. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Melinda Cox, and I teach drawing, design, and occasionally painting here at Tacoma Community College. Those of you who do know me, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Taking time out of such a fab day. Those of you who know me know that Lola is a occasional, if not frequent, visitor to the college, and she's been coming in here since she was 49 days old, so just a little teeny tiny puppy. And since I thought what I would do, and you can kind of time me and tell me when to cut off, because I tend to start slow and then Topolsky's laughing.
Don't stop.
And then I don't stop. Yeah, and then I don't stop. So the general theme of this exhibition, when Marit and I don't know if we committed ourselves or if Jennifer said, yeah, Marit committed us. So we came up with a general theme of animals. We both work representationally, so I think our work has that link. It's not like having something that's very abstracted and very representational together. So there is that theme of animals, and because we both work primarily two-dimensionally, that I think the work fits together really well. And I'd like to thank Jennifer as well for I think she has kind of a genius for making different people's work together. The visual, just, you know, there's a flow to it, and I really do appreciate that. The choices of the things that I put in here were new stuff, which is the little dogs, and I'll talk about those. My big dog, which is here, and then a few things that are a little bit older that are on the back wall and the side over there. And it's things from sort of kind of a personal journey as far as media and composition goes. The oldest pieces in here are the large charcoal drawings on the back wall. I hadn't drawn for probably about 10 years, and I was just kind of in this huge slump. I was making pottery, doing totally different things, bad pottery I might add, and I decided that I wanted to try a media that I wasn't particularly fond of, that I hadn't used that much, although charcoal is a really traditional drawing media. And I did the 3 large drawings on the back wall, and I wish I could have made them as big as the entire wall. I love drawing large. I mean, I just really, Lola, come here and sit down, please. Thank you. All the way down. Okay, you stay there. So anyway, I love working large. It's very freeing. Charcoal is one of those media that you can just work big. Your whole body is kind of involved, and the bigger they get, I think the more fun they are. When I do those big drawings, I do them in my dining room, and because it has the best light, and I tape the paper on the wall and paint the walls when I'm done, because the charcoal is very, very dirty, but they were a lot of fun to do. And those are part of a series of about 10, I guess. Those are the largest of the series, and they live over in the drawing room normally, so it was easy to bring them over here. The drawings over on the side wall are a little bit later. I can't remember which came first. I think the endangered species drawing. I like to work in series, and the endangered species drawing, which is the one in graphite with a silver frame, is one of the few things that I've done that's just a single drawing that stands alone. I have a collection of furs and shoes and handbags and things that they don't make any longer. And I was thinking about the environment and how things change. The little handbag in there, some of you might not have seen one like it. It was my, a lot of our moms had them in the 30s, I think. And it was made out of an actual alligator. And so they skinned them out and dried them, so its little hands and feet come around, and its head actually has a snap. I should have brought the alligator bag. I didn't even think about it. But anyway, I put together those objects as a still life, and I had it sitting in my studio, and I wanted to make that contrast between plants and things that are still living, and then the living things that we've made into wearable objects. And also, it was fun to draw. My cat did tear the still life apart and drag the fur off about halfway through, but I had it kind of drawn out. And then the birds are done kind of at the same time. I didn't realize that I had been fooling around with birds, flipping them around in the air in drawings and things until last year. I'd been doing it for a long time, doing drawings of birds. I went to visit my sister in Colorado, and she had a print that I did in college that was hanging in the bathroom, and it said "Balancing Birds," and that's the title of the one that's balancing on the eggs. And I thought, oh my, I've been doing that for a long time. So it was totally different, but conceptually, for some reason, the concept has stayed with me and changed. I like drawing figures, the disembodied hands. My husband was the hand model, and so there was another one planned to actually have in the series for this show, and it was one of the things that I just didn't get done. So who knows, maybe the next time it rolls around, if Marit and I commit again. Although I think we're fine for now. Yeah. So that brings me, so that was 2008, like 2010 and 2014. And I wanted just straight drawings in here as part of the exhibition, because that's the main thing I teach. And I thought it would be nice for my students to see what I actually did and what my aesthetic is. Everything that I do has some kind of a story, but I think it's up to any individual to plug their own experience into the work that they view. The Lola drawings were the very last ones that I did for this show, so I'll go with those next, and because I have my main model here. And quite honestly, these were an absolute blast for me to do. They were so much fun. I love my dog, obviously, but there were about maybe 10 or 12 ideas that I kind of was tossing around, and these are the ones that ended up being processed and done. And several years ago, when Lola had stolen 3 loaves of bread off the counter in as many days, because she is kind of a counter stealer, I was sitting there with my husband, and he said to me, well, today was Lola's lucky day. You got another loaf of bread. And so that's kind of where the title of the series came, for Lola's lucky day. So all these things in some way were things that I considered that Lola probably had fun, and it was Lola's lucky day to do it. So media-wise, I have been working, as you can tell, in really muted kinds of colors, or non-color, just black and white. And just recently, in the last 2 years, I've been working more with color. I can't say that I'm totally comfortable with it, but it's something different, and whenever I do a new series of work, I like to challenge myself in some way, because it just makes it more fun, and there's no reason to do the same thing over and over and over again unless somebody is knocking down your door to buy it, and nobody is, so, you know, there you go. So anyway, the media on these, and I seldom work with mixed media. Everything is usually there. It's charcoal, it's color pencil, it's graphite, it's one thing. Those are all gouache, and so these are a combination of media. So the backgrounds are all watercolor in all of these, and then the main objects in them, like the dog or the little jeans and the feet, the chair seat, the dogs here, always the dog figure, are done. I painted a silhouette over the top of the watercolor in gouache, and then I used color pencil on top of the silhouettes. And so it was kind of a layered process. In that way, I had to think about it a little bit differently than I normally do, because when you're drawing, it's just a straight drawing, it's very direct. You know, you get the idea, you put the material on the page, and you're kind of done. So it was unusual to have to do the watercolor and have to wait till it dried. And then on some of them, I had to do more watercolor because I'm not used to working with it, and it dries a lot lighter than it seems like it's going to, and it's kind of a translucent media, and then gouache is very opaque. For those of you who don't know what gouache is, it's a water-based paint, and it's often used by illustrators. And the first time, I've seen it in things but never really paid that much attention. You know, those are all gouache, so, and there's nothing else in those, it's just straight paint. But it's a water-based paint, it's really opaque, it's stiff, it dries really fast. Illustrators use it a lot. And I was in Nebraska visiting some family, and I went into the Jocelyn Art Museum there, and in their basement they have, like most museums, the drawings, the prints are in the, in the ground floor or down where the archives and stuff are. And they had an exhibition of original work from the Little Golden books. And some of you guys are too young to remember those, but there are a lot of us here who do remember them. And the illustrations for those, seeing them in person, they were, some of them 50, 60 years old, and they were just as fresh and lively and colorful as they had been in the original. And I remembered some of them from the book. So that's what inspired me to try gouache, and I'll say a little bit more about that when I talk about those, if I have time. Oh, I've only taken up, oh, see, I'm almost done. Okay, so, so anyway, the gouache over the top, which is very opaque, and then the color pencil to add the subtleties. My favorites change every time I look at any series, and I really want to do a few more Lolas just because they were so much fun to do. That is her litter mate, Bentley, on the end, and that does look, I think, more like him than Lola does in that one. When you draw or paint people that you know, people or animals that you know, I think it's really difficult. Because everybody has those subtle things, you know, everybody, you know, you've got eyes, you've got nose, you've got mouth, but everybody has these real subtle things about them. And in that one on the end, I knew I had Bentley just down, and I was just struggling with drawing Lola. And I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And my husband and I have agreed not to criticize each other's artwork. It just makes a happier home. But I asked him, I said, there is something wrong with Lola. I don't know what it is. Why doesn't it look like Lola? And he looked at me and he said, she doesn't have enough eyeshadow on. And as soon, because she has, would you like to come here and model? Sit, please. Turn your little face. Here, we'll give you a bone, and then everybody can see your beautiful eyeshadow. Come here. Sit. There. So, wait. So you can see she's got this real smoky eye, which is very popular right now. So anyway, I gave her more smoky eye, and there it was. So she was all set. So anyway, are there any questions about anything that I've said so far? I tend to kind of, you know, rattle on. Did you have something, Kathy? No. Okay. All right. So then, I did bring, and I'll show you, sometimes students will ask about my working process. And because sometimes, I usually have some kind of a photographic image that I start with, but most often it's not just draw the photograph. There's other steps involved. So this one, Lola on the Cowboy Trail, for example, these are all, with the exception of the one with Bentley and Lola, are all taken from more than one image. But on this one, I had a picture of Lola that I had taken, and I blew that up to get it about the right size. And I had a picture of cattle that I had taken, and so you can see that I used this cow and that cow, those two, and then some echinacea that were on the prairie on one of my trips. So I used those three, and then I do a kind of a compositional layout sketch. So I kind of know where everything is going to go, and then I work from there. So that's kind of that's what I did with all these. And so that was the process on these. The process on those three big drawings in the back was very similar to this. So, okay. So, lastly, and this series was inspired, predicated, whatever, by a couple of things. First, I'd seen those drawings from the Little Golden books, and I just loved the way they looked. The color was just so cool. And I am not what I would consider a colorist at all, because I'm a drawer, really not a painter. And so this was out of my comfort zone a little bit. And then my husband's mom had passed away, and I did not know that people had given him as a kid these little figurines, and I'll pass this around. And this is the one from the postcard, the little Scotty dog, or it isn't a Scotty dog. Somebody told me it was an Airedale, but it's a bottle of scotch there, so I figured, you know, Scotty dog. So anyhow, and on the bottoms of all of these figures are stamped "Made in Occupied Japan." So I started out, I started these in 2014. I did a couple of them between Thanksgiving and Christmas and decided it was something I wanted to pursue. So basically I did 7 of them, and then I did all the rest of them pretty much between Thanksgiving and when the show opened this year. So my math is bad, but there's 16 there, so that'd make what, 9? I don't know, or 11. I can't play cribbage because of that. I can't add. So anyway, I took the little dog, and on this first one, I was painting the little dog, and the little dog looked really cool, but it looked really weird because these little figurines are they have distortions, and just sitting there by itself, it just looked really, really strange. So I started looking around my house for things that would look well with each of the dogs, and I didn't realize how much stuff I have around from the 30s, 40s, and 50s that I've just kind of collected, I guess, over a period of time. So as you can tell from the little figure, all of the little figurines are done to scale, and I just sort of plugged in other things to go with them. Some of them are a little bit more whimsical, some of them are pretty straightforward. But what intrigued me intellectually about these objects, I think, is that you can look at these on several different levels. You can look at them just, oh, these are little pictures of dogs. You know, they're pleasant to look at. But the whole idea of the figures themselves having been made in occupied Japan immediately in the years following World War II, which was a devastating event for so many people in the world, and that there was this industrial complex that the Japanese had developed over the years, and that their whole economy and culture, everything was just decimated. And what came out of this were these little odd figurines, you know. So, you know, just that kind of juxtaposition of context. I don't know how to word it really any better than that, but that being said, you know, I think that you can look at them in a lot of different ways. You know, you can look at them in a lot of different levels. You can look at them just as you know, pleasant, colorful pictures, or you can look at them on those several different levels. Don't know what else to say. Do you have any questions about anything? If not, Lola and I can do our tricks again.
Do you have a favorite one?
Oh gosh, it varies. I was so surprised how cool they looked when I walked into the gallery after Jennifer had hung them. I think currently, because I'm doing a lot of knitting, I kind of like the yarn and these little dancing sheep in the background of that one. This was one of the earlier ones that I did, and I like it because it has kind of a little bit more abstract kind of quality, I guess, and Even though I can't wear them, I still have this pair of shoes. They're my first pair of Italian high heels, you know, and they're hanging in my studio as decoration. I like the, I don't know, I think currently those are probably my two current favorites. They all have, almost all have something else in them that has meaning, just personal meaning for me, like the little terriers on the end. There's a compass in there, and although my dad wasn't deployed overseas during the war, that was his compass that he was issued, and the button in there was a uniform button from my grandfather from World War I. And my brother-in-law's dad was in the Navy, and he spent a lot of time in occupied Japan, and this little teapot was one that he brought back for his wife. So they're all things that have some kind of personal connection. And then there are all these with the kind of floral backgrounds. I've got a collection of vintage tablecloths that I use, and you know, if I and I hadn't specifically, a lot of things that happen for me when I'm working are kind of accidents, happy accidents, or serendipitous kinds of things, because I think it was this tablecloth, or it could have been the one with the compasses. I had this sitting on the table, and I had all these little dogs, and I was sitting them out trying to decide which ones I wanted to draw, and I thought, oh, that looks cool sitting on the tablecloth. And so I used some of the tablecloths in the drawings. So, yeah.
Yeah, do you have a hard time partying with these when you sell them?
Yes and no. The longer I have them, the easier it is. Yeah, but, and it doesn't, if I have a good photographic image of it, then it doesn't bother me really at all. And I think the older I get, the less immediately precious the pieces become to me, because I've done them, you know, I've worked through the process, I've said visually what I want to say, and they can live someplace else. I'm happy when they have a good home, you know, but yeah, they can live someplace else. It's a good question. It's one that I'd never answered, so yeah, it's a good one. Anybody else? I guess then I'm done. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I really do. I really appreciate it.